As the number of interacting objects goes up, managing the connections turns into a terrible mess. It seems inevitable to sacrifice reusability and modular design. However, I'm here to save you, so let's consider a simple scenario. Imagine we have a lot of different types of killer zones and killable objects. You probably want each killable to have its own unique dying mechanism. This forces you to keep the dying mechanism inside the killable object itself. The killers must have no clue what is going to happen to the killable object touching them. Otherwise, the killer code turns into a terrible mess of if jungles full of dependencies. This makes you think of Godot signals. However, any attempt to connect the killable functions to killer signals quickly turns into a spaghetti mess of function-signal interactions. The solution everybody seems to be happy about is to use the has method function inside the killer object. At first, it doesn't seem to be a great sacrifice. Simply connect the killer body inter signal to its own function and see if the body has a method named, for example, hit. If it has, it must react to the killer, call the function, and we are done. Now inside each killable object, you can implement a different mechanism in its hit function. Everything seems okay, but actually, it's not okay. Let's say some of the killable objects are immune to some killer zones and show a different reaction. For example, the flaming dragon would be immune to the fire zone and would laugh when it touches it, but it dies if it touches the water zone. Now the question is, how on earth can a single function inside the dragon object laugh and die at the same time? And what are you gonna call it? Hit? The terrible solution is to get a reference to the zone and check if it's water or fire. Now the hit function does two completely separate tasks.
Single responsibility principle broken.
The dragon also depends on the type of the zone, and the zone depends on the name of the dragon function. What a mess! Step by step, a lazy implementation of a good idea turns your project into an unmanageable mess. But you don't worry, because you are subscribed to my channel. And here is a neat solution. Consider your TV set. It has a remote control and a display. The remote control is a completely different device from the display, but they work together. They are one module. We need to implement a similar system to solve the killer's killables dilemma. I separate the killer module into two objects, sender and receiver. The sender is the one responsible for emitting the signal. The signal is still connected to a function inside the sender. However, it does not call a function of the body touching it. Instead, it calls the function of its receiver. Adding the receiver as a child of the killable object, I can check if the body touching the sender has the receiver as a child. However, I don't want to hardcode name dependencies, so I let the sender get the name of its receiver as an exported variable. This way, I can reuse the same system without touching any code. The receiver, on the other hand, has an exported variable which holds the name of the function of the killable object. To check if the system works, I print some messages. Let's set up the names in the editor and run the game. It works perfectly. Back to the dragon problem, let's add a water zone, a fire zone, and a new killable object called dragon. The dragon needs two functions, laugh and die. The player already has a die function. Let's make it react to the new zone types. Simply add two receiver nodes and name them appropriately. Don't forget to tell the receivers to call the player's die function. Do the same thing for the dragon. Make the water receiver call the die function and the fire receiver call the laugh one. Let's run the game. And it is working perfectly. You can expand the idea and apply it to totally different scenarios. Every signal emitter can use receivers, and this way you can enable or disable abilities of your objects by simply adding or removing receivers. You can even change the behavior of the object by changing the receiver function reference name. As a side note, the valuable insightful comments on my other video caused the creation of this one. It would be great if the same thing happens again. Thank you.